different levels of attention to city affairs. Right? So, for those of you who don't know, even though Councilman Carroll has been part of the city government as a council member just recently, right, for about 2 years since Wagner went out to become the supervisor of the county. But Councilman Carroll has been part of the city government for many, many years as commissioners, as chairs, sitting on commissions and vice chairs. So he's got such a wealth of experience working at the city level, way before he became a council member. So I think we're so lucky as residents here to have an experienced person at the city government level who really cares about public safety. That's why today we also have the police chief here as part of the town hall meeting. Of course, he's always at the forefront for education policies in the city and so many other issues that concern all of us here as residents, as business owners, and as part of the urban community. So I will leave it to him to introduce himself and really talk about many of the issues and policies and city inner workings, so that we as residents here can learn about how the city works, even though sometimes at a very higher level, but do get to know the city and get involved. Right? That's what we as teachers for so many years in Irvine have been telling our students and parents really get engaged and get involved in local affairs. And that's also a big part of our kids' education, not just going to schools and learning textbook knowledge, but also really get engaged in local affairs. So without further ado, let's welcome Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Shed, very much. And I just wanted to just briefly really thank first the Ivy Max organization for having me and having Chief Ken here tonight. Thank you, Shed, and who has recently joined as our appointee to the Irvine Investment Committee. Irvine, I can say a lot of things about our great city in which we live, or work, or go to school. And I'll spend a few minutes talking about that and then maybe ask the Chief to say a few words as well. But I can tell you that among the many awards that our great community has received is the best fiscally managed city in the United States of America. I think we won that award last year. And Shin will be involved in that. We have a Citizens Investment Advisory Committee that goes over some of the investments with our Chief Financial Officer at the city and her team on the types of investments that the city makes and the way that the city's managed financially. So really excited to have you on our Investment Advisory Committee, Shannon. Vicki, thank you. Really enjoyed your words and for having me. I'm so honored to be here on behalf of the city of Irvine. And of course, Bobby, what can I say except go lighting to start, since my little one just started attending there as well. But thank you for your warm welcome, and it was really exciting to hear the interesting things that you're working on, from a nonprofit perspective and how it's sort of expanding throughout. So, and look, it's really, as she mentioned, I've been on the Irvine City Council for a few years now. I was actually appointed, and then I was later elected, and last November, about a year ago, really pretty much about a year ago from this week, and I received the second highest votes ever received in the history of the city of Irvine for a political election. And this is, of course, if you don't know, hopefully you'll be hearing more about it. We have some events coming up that we would love for you to participate in. It's Irvine's 50th year. So Irvine is having its 50th birthday this year, and we have a bunch of celebration activities happening this December. So I guess I would just briefly begin and just spend a minute or two on what Irvine is to me, and why I decided to serve. And I just can't tell you Irvine is a lot of things, and I like numbers, so I guess I can start by letting you know that Irvine is the 3rd largest city and the 6th largest county in the United States of America. Irvine has about 310,000 people in it, and a city that Chief Kent works to protect with the men and women of the Irvine Police Force, and myself and our mayor and the other council members work to essentially help manage, essentially as fiduciaries or caretakers of the city, work on a city that is, I think we're now either 12th or 13th largest city in the state of California. And just to give you an idea about what it means to be the 3rd largest city and the 6th largest county, here's some interesting facts. Orange County, not Los Angeles, not San Diego, but the county in which we live, if it was a separate nation, nations are quantified on what's called GDP, and many of you probably know about this, gross domestic product. It's the output of a particular nation. If Orange County was a nation, it would be the 51st largest country in terms of economic output. That's like right, basically, I think we're above Egypt and some other countries, and we're just below a country the size and the breadth of Singapore. Just to give you an idea, just Orange County. And the economic center, not the service economy and the retail that serves neighborhoods, because that's really important, but the real economic hub of Orange County, of the 51st largest GDP in the world, is Irvine, California. And that's just the commercial part where we all work, and many of us work in the Spectrum and the Irvine Business Center. And in addition to that, let's talk about the residential aspects of Irvine. Many of us, including myself and my wife Betty, came here for the education prospects of Irvine, California. My daughters attended Irvine Public Schools, the one right over there, Mr. Birdie K-8. And my wife, who herself really represents so much of what Irvine is for many of us, is a first-generation American. She actually was born in Mexico, and she immigrated here with her family, and she received her citizenship along the way. And my daughters are basically, essentially 2nd generation now themselves. And we take our public service very, very seriously. As she mentioned, I've been involved as a commissioner for many years at the city, and now honored enough to serve on the city council. And my wife Betty was very involved in the schools, on the school side of things, and she was the chair of the Irvine Public Schools Foundation, that raises money for all the Irvine IOSD schools, and then later was elected and served as the president of the Board of Education. So she was basically in charge of the school board. That's 36,000 children that go to Irvine Public Schools that I'm sure many of you attended. So what's our Irvine like? What is it been described as? It's been described as a lot of things, and it's received a lot of accolades. As you know, we're the safest city in the United States of America, and I know Chief Kent will probably speak for a minute or two about that and what that really means in terms of a community and in terms of quality of life and the types of neighborhoods that we have. And then, who are we as a people? Irvine was proven in some type of I think it was Brown University did a study, and it was determined that Irvine is incredibly unique in one way. It is the most diversely integrated community in the United States. There is no city in our entire nation that is more diversely integrated. And what I mean by that is, due to history and a lot of other reasons and cultural and whatnot, there are other communities in our country that have maybe certain people that look a certain way that live over in this part of the city. Or maybe they kind of speak in a certain way, or they're over in this part. Or they might have religious beliefs or certain other backgrounds. That's not the case in Irvine. In Irvine, it's integrated completely through the entire city. There's no part of our city that's one particular group. I'm sure each of us can even speak to it. Each one of our streets that we live on is really a mosaic of different people from different backgrounds who may speak different second languages, different first languages, share different religious beliefs, or share common beliefs, or have different religious beliefs. But one thing all kind of binds us together, and it's this thing called Irvine. It's this concept that we're all here to enjoy. I mean, you just look out, you can even look out at the shade, you can barely see through it, but you can see the beauty of our city and our parks and recreation, the safety that we get to enjoy being in a community that we have with the Irvine Police Department. And of course, the schools and the education, which is really, I think to many of us, we believe really second to none in the type of education that we provide. So I've probably spoken far too long, but I'm a council member at Irvine. We serve 4-year terms. I look forward to answering your questions. My job really is, what can I bring? It's almost a bit somewhat spiritual in a way. It's like, what do we all bring as gifts? What have we been endowed with as gifts that we can kind of basically use with the community for the benefit and for the good? And for me, it's basically Irvine first. My belief is that I'm extremely proud and honored and truly blessed to be living in this community, to raise my children, and to have this life that I have right here in Irvine, California. And my ability, I think, is to kind of use my professional skills. I mean, this is a part-time thing. It's not really well compensated or anything like that. It's not volunteer, but it's almost volunteer. But my day job is a corporate transaction lawyer where I do business transactions and mergers and acquisitions. So I deal with, generally speaking, a lot of legally complicated things. And I'd like to think that I bring some of those gifts here to our community when we're dealing with the different interests that deal with the city on a regular basis as we try to develop the city. Because we only have a certain finite, 66 square miles to build. And really the most important thing that the city does from a legal function is we hire a city manager that helps run the city and helps put together a police department and oversee a police department. So we have a public safety function, and we basically do land use. We decide where to put certain things on the land and how to basically properly develop the city. And we're really proud of that. It's a history that goes back 50 years. We'll be talking more about it as part of our 50th anniversary. But at the end of the day, this was a vision essentially by we got very fortunate because we had one single landowner that owned all this land, the Irvine family, but then became the Irvine Company. And the idea was to take all the places in the United States where things were built out because of history in an older way and figure out a way to put it together in a way that works, that's mapped out in what they call a set of different villages, like Turtle Rock, where I live, or Northwood, or West Park, and to have a different, sort of vibe, if you will, or character, all pulled together by the fact of one community, one school district, one city, Irvine. So with that, if it's okay, I'd like to turn over to our chief of police to say a few things, because we're so happy to welcome really to our chief, who just became chief. We're excited to have you, Chief.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Kent. I'm the Chief of Police with the Irvine Police Department. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, perfect. First off, a big thank you to Shin and Vicki for having me. I appreciate that. It's definitely special being part of the community, being part of these town halls. And before I kind of talk about the police department, I wanted to tell you guys a little about my story, what brought me here, because I think so many people in this room have a commonality. We all have different stories and different paths, but the commonalities are Irvine. So my family and I immigrated to the United States about 32 years ago. We came from Egypt. And now I know what our economy stands. So my father is Egyptian, my mother is Iranian, and we moved to the States for pretty much the same reason why everybody moves to Irvine, whether it's from different parts of the country or different parts of the world. We're looking for opportunities. We're looking for being able to live and be who we are. And not that we didn't have an opportunity to do that back home, but we knew there was more opportunity here. It was challenging because as a 12-year-old kid, when I came here, just not knowing what to do, what direction we're going in, and trying to seek some guidance from the small number of family members that we had here as far as where to go to school, where to live, what career paths I wanted to choose. It was a challenge, but it all changed for me one day when I was riding my bike to high school, to Woodbridge High School. Where's the Woodbridge folks? There you go. Best high school in the city. No offense to anybody else, but of course I got to get my alma mater shut up. I was riding my bike to school, and an Irvine police officer stopped me because I was wearing headphones. You're not supposed to wear headphones when riding your bike. You're supposed to kind of pay attention to what's going on around you, if someone's honking their horn or hear cars coming. So, and I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. Here's this motor officer, this big shiny motorcycle with big leather boots and the helmet. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? And everything changed when the police officer started talking to me. Just the thing that was so impactful and touching about that moment was he talked to me like I was his son. He was very genuine, he was compassionate, he cared, and he educated me about what I did wrong. Now, I still got a ticket, but through that citation, I actually did community service at the Boys and Girls Club, and that's where I was introduced to the Irvine Police Explorer program. It's like a Girl Scout, Boy Scout type of program that the police department has for high school age students, where you can do volunteer work, you can help out with special events, you can get to know our officers better, how the police department works, get to run ride-alongs, serve the community in your own ways. And that's when I knew that this is it, this is the job I want to do. And after college, I signed up to be an Irvine police officer, and fast forward about 20 years later, here I am today. So very fortunate, very blessed to be in the position I'm in today. Very thankful to the City Council and City Management for entrusting me with this position. I know how important it is for all the reasons and many more that the council member just talked about. I want to share a little bit about the department. We're like the council member, we're the largest city in the county land mass wise. So you know, third largest in population when you figure the land mass, we're largest in the county. Especially after incorporating the Irvine Del Toro Marine Base years ago, and that became now what's the Great Park. We've seen a huge explosion in our population. To give you an idea, when I moved to Irvine in 1990, the population back then was about 120, 130. Today, we're like the council members said, we're about 310,000 people. So with that, you obviously need more police officers. I've seen the department grow from about 130 officers to about 250 today. We have a variety of different assignments, and the thing that's really important to us is to live up to our motto. And our motto, if you see on the side of the police cars, it says, in partnership with the community. And that's what we truly believe. That's in our DNA. That is the mindset we have when we go out to serve all of you, and your families, and the visitors that come to Irvine, and those that work in Irvine, those that go to school in Irvine, those that live in Irvine. It's about that special partnership and that unique bond that we have. I'm sure everybody's heard of the terms of community-oriented policing. That's been practiced for a couple of decades now, but we were doing that from our first day in 1975 when the police department was actually founded. That's been our style of policing, and we're very proud of that because we see the special relationships, the special bond that we have with those that we serve. The important message that I want everybody to hear is we're here for you, regardless of what your story is, regardless of what your background is, regardless of where you came from. We are your police department. It's really important for us to integrate inside the community through cultural centers, faith-based groups, schools, businesses, whatever it may be, for us to have some sort of a presence or footprint for people to get to know us and know that we're here for you if you were ever to need any sort of help. This past year and a half has definitely been challenging for a lot of us in trying to still be connected to the community was challenging because of a lot of what we did was in person, the meetings, the town halls or community homeowners association presentations, being in the schools. A lot of that was taken back, so we switched to a lot of the virtual platforms to stay connected. And now that we're seeing a lot of these types of platforms open up, we're trying to build on that. But the one thing that we're always receptive on is feedback. So your feedback is important to us. I can't tell you how many countless number of conversations I've had where someone has said, "You guys ever thought of doing whatever it is, fill in the blank?" Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Why can't we do that? So whatever feedback, whatever ideas you have for us to better serve you and work together, like I said, in partnership and in collaboration, please feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to ask questions today. But again, thank you for having me. I look forward to your questions. Thank you.